Good day, I'm Larkman, a national tour guide in South Africa. Today we'll be looking at the life and times of Nelson Mandela through the eyes of a tourist guide. I've thoroughly enjoyed putting together this very short video. I sincerely hope that you also will enjoy it. Thank you.
Mandela was an anti-apartheid activist who was sentenced to life in prison for plotting to overthrow the ruling white government through the use of violence. Despite both local and international protests, he still spent 26 years behind prison bars. Nelson was born in 1918 in the small town of Kunu in the province of Eastern Cape in South Africa. This is a date that I will never forget, as my father was also born in 1918. Ironically, when South Africa had their first free elections for all on 27 April 1994, this was the same date that my dad died. His father was Chief Henry Magadla of the Tembu clan, which is part of the Xhosa tribe. The Xhosa is the second largest African tribe in South Africa, only second to the Zulus in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. When Nelson started school, his white teacher was unable to pronounce his tribal name and told him that from now on your name will be Nelson. This name remained with him throughout his life. Nelson matriculated at Heald Town Methodist School in 1938. Thus, as such, Mandela formed part of a very small number of black pupils who had attained a high school education in South Africa. He often spoke to students to emphasize the importance of a solid education. He stated that in order to benefit your country, it was imperative that you had a solid education. His dream is that the educated youth would change the face of South Africa. It is a Xhosa tradition that only when you have been circumcised and done the necessary initiation ceremony, which usually lasts about 4 weeks, can you be considered to be a man. During the 4 weeks in isolation with boys of a similar age, you have to live off the land. This initiation period usually takes place in winter. The ANC, African National Congress, was formed way back in 1912 as a liberation party primarily for the black people. As a young man, Mandela was a very keen amateur boxer, and Sugar Ray Robinson, a former world boxing champion, presented Mandela with a WBC World Championship belt. This belt can be viewed at Mandela's home in Soweto. One of Nelson Mandela's greatest dreams was to unite the various African tribes into one united family. This was a most difficult task, as when you look at Southern Africa's history, these various African tribes were always at war with each other, and in particular, the larger tribes always dominating the smaller African tribes. Mandela joined the ANC Youth Party in 1944 when it was formed. He played a very active role and became its leader from 1950 to 1960. Mandela moved into his Soweto home with his wife Evelyn in 1946. They had 4 children. Due to his underground political activities, he spent very little time in his Soweto home. Due to their different views, they subsequently got divorced. In 1952, Mandela and Oliver Tambo formed the very first black legal firm in South Africa. The white-dominated Law Society tried to have them banned, but the High Court ruled in favor of Mandela and Oliver Tambo. Since then, the international airport in Johannesburg has been renamed in honor of Oliver Tambo. Due to political unrest in the country, 156 people were in 1956 arrested and accused of high treason. This group included Nelson Mandela. The main trial lasted 5 years, and at the end of the day, all 156 were found by the High Court judge not guilty. In 1958, he married Winnie. They were married for 38 years and had 2 children. She was a very radical person, which caused a lot of grief and concern for Mandela. Therefore, and in view of this, they both agreed that it was in their best interests that they should seek a divorce. When asked why they wanted a divorce, Mandela replied that his relationship had become strained, not only on a personal level, but also because of her public behavior. She often contradicted him in public speeches. Their divorce took place after he was released from prison when he died in 2018. In 1962, Mandela was arrested in KwaZulu-Natal, a province in South Africa, for leaving the country illegally and for citing strikes against the ruling government. For this minor infringement, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. At the exact capture site, a very unique sculpture has been erected depicting the face of Mandela. After a tip-off by a young boy, the top leaders of both the ANC and the SACP, South African Communist Party, were arrested at their Ladies Leaf headquarters in the upmarket Johannesburg suburb of Rivonia. The police gained access to the premises in a laundry van. Mandela was not there at the time, as he was already serving a 5-year prison sentence. During this raid, the police found incriminating papers of Mandela listing various acts of terrorism. These were used in the Rivonia High Court treason trial, which was held later that year. 8 of the accused, including Mandela, were found guilty of high treason. This carried the death sentence. Due to international pressure, the death sentence was reduced to life imprisonment. Thus, Mandela then started his life sentence at the infamous Robben Island, just off the coast of Cape Town. Robben Island is currently an inactive prison and is located about 7 kilometers, 4 miles from Blouberg Strand in Cape Town. For those of you who may be interested, Robben Island is one of the 10 UNESCO World Heritage Sites in South Africa. The ferry journey from Cape Town to Robben Island takes about 40 minutes. As stated above, in 1964, Mandela and his co-accused were sent to Robben Island, remaining there for the next 18 years. He was isolated from non-political prisoners in Section B, B for Bravo. There were over 3,000 political prisoners in Robben Island. His prison cell only measured 8 foot by 6 foot, with a straw mat on which to sleep. The Rivonia trial prisoners spent their days breaking rocks into gravel within the prison wall. A year later, in 1965, these political prisoners were reassigned to work in the lime quarry. Their toilet was located in a large hole in the side of the quarry. At night, Mandela worked on his LLB degree from the University of London. He also studied Afrikaans, hoping to build a mutual respect with the warders and hopefully to convert them to his cause. Due to the high risk that was allocated to Mandela, he was initially classified as the lowest grade of prisoner, Class D, D for Delta, meaning that he was permitted only 1 visit and one letter every 6 months. His wife, Winnie, was rarely able to see him, being herself regularly imprisoned for various political activities. By 1975, 11 years later, Mandela had become a Class A for Alpha prisoner, which allowed him a greater number of visits and letters. Mandela tried to build a relationship with the younger black radical prisoners, as he was critical of their racialism and contempt for white anti-apartheid activists. Despite the ruling government relying on its Cold War allies, US President Ronald Reagan and UK Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher both considered Mandela's ANC party a terrorist organisation sympathetic to communism and thus supported its suppression. Since 1961, Robben Island, a maximum security prison, was used by the South African government for both political and convicted criminals. In 1991, the maximum security prison was closed for political prisoners, and the medium security prison was closed for criminal prisoners 5 years later. Unfortunately for visitors, the taking of videos at Robben Island is forbidden. Therefore, I was only able to take still photos. During the 1970s, the government offered to release Mandela if he recognized the various separate areas within South Africa that had been allocated to the blacks where they could govern themselves. Mandela rejected this offer, as he stated that South Africa in its total entirety was for all South Africans. During the 1980s, the government again offered to release him if he would renounce all violence. Mandela again said no, as he did not know what the current mood of the people was. He thus remained in prison. After spending 18 years behind bars in Robben Island, he was transferred to 2 prisons in Cape Town, where he spent a further 8 years. Thus, in total, Mandela was behind prison bars for 26 years. Finally, in 1990, due to both local and international pressure, the South African government released Mandela. His ANC team and the government drew up the South African Constitution. After much negotiation, this important constitutional document was accepted by all parties, with the emphasis on the protection of minorities. This would have included minority African tribes as well as the white people, who were very much a minority group. It took all of 4 years for the Constitution to be drawn up. In 1992, a whites-only referendum was held with a simple question: are you in favour of granting full political rights to all peoples of South Africa? The whites voted unanimously in favour of granting full political rights to all. Only the far-right white people did not vote in favour of granting full political rights to the blacks. In 1993, there was a joint Nobel Peace Prize given to both Nelson Mandela and President de Klerk of the apartheid government. In 1994, Nelson Mandela became the first black president of South Africa. A very popular choice and very much welcomed by most South Africans. Thus, the Rainbow Nation came into being. I have no doubt in my mind that if it was not for Nelson Mandela, we would have had a civil war. Already there were moves to destroy all colonial statues, but Mandela emphatically said no, as it was part of the white heritage and should not be destroyed. No doubt that due to the presence of Nelson Mandela, the World Football Club was awarded to South Africa in 2010. This is the first time that an African country has been awarded for the venue of a World Football Cup. Mandela was invited to London, and to the best of my knowledge and belief, is the only black president from an African country to travel through the streets of London in the royal carriage with Queen Elizabeth. His bodyguards always had a hard time in restraining him during rallies, as he always wandered off to shake hands with the general public. Interestingly, one of his greatest pleasures while watching the sunset was to listen to the music of Tchaikovsky and Handel. In 1988, Mandela married Graça Machel, the widow of Samora Machel, the former president of Mozambique. She is the only woman in modern history to have served as the first lady of two countries, namely South Africa and Mozambique. In 1998, while he was still president, Mandela went for tests at the Rosebank Hospital. I was also in the hospital waiting in the reception room of my doctor's rooms. Suddenly, Nelson appeared at our door. We all stood up. I was at the back of the doctor's room. Mandela looked me in the eye and said, "Don't you want to shake hands with me?" I said, "Of course," and I went forward to shake hands with the great Nelson Mandela. We shook hands. Mandela's hand was very firm and radiated a powerful energy. To this day, when I think back, it gives me goosebumps. A good book to read is Long Walk to Freedom. Similarly, a great DVD, Invictus. You would have thought that if someone had been in prison for 26 years, he would be a very bitter person. This was most certainly not the case with Nelson Mandela. After his release, he held no bitterness or malice. He can no doubt be regarded as a unique person and also a man of reconciliation. He was eventually loved by most South Africans. On the 5th of December 2013, Mandela died at the ripe old age of 95. Finally, it can undoubtedly be said that Nelson Mandela was a man amongst men.